There he is, the man, the myth. You ever watch that Sopranos episode?
I mean, I watched Sopranos for the first time over the pandemic.
Yeah.
Over the pandemic, like it's the summer.
Yeah, me too. I watched it recently too. I always knew, like, it's weird. It was one of those shows where I knew so much about it, having never watched it.
Yeah.
Because it was such an iconic
Show.
Yeah, I feel like it was the first of its kind, bro. Even though I was still young when it was first coming up. Like, it was like 98-ish into like the early 2000s. But I just remember that show being so polarizing where people were actually at their TV way before DVR and shit and all that. But, like, people actually would be glued watching it. You know what other show was like that?
Well, hold on. I was going to say Tony Soprano was one of the first anti-heroes. It's the idea of you fall in love with a bad guy.
Yeah, yo, wrestling hero, bro.
Yeah, he is the...
Like, you shouldn't like Tony Soprano. Like, the character in that show is not like a good guy.
But they find a way.
You fall in love with that. Yeah. Wrestling heel, son. Everything is wrestling. I try to tell you.
So what episode is that, or what?
Nah, but there's a scene where Tony walks in and they're having like one of those meetings at the club.
Okay.
He's like, there he is, the man, the myth, the legend. I always send that clip to Dom.
I got to get the screenshot.
Yeah. It's the best.
Damn. Yo, crazy weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everyone's saying best weekend ever.
All 4 games decided by 15 points total.
Yeah. Coming into the week, too, if you took all the point spreads, no one was favored by more than a touchdown.
Okay.
So it was the tightest the divisional round has ever been. If you go back to 1978, that's as far back as like the statistic that I saw was. Mm-hmm. If you go back to 1978 and you take all the implied point spreads of the 4 games in the divisional round and added them up, this past weekend was the tightest it ever was.
Damn.
And it played out why those games were the way they were.
Last night, obviously, I feel like everyone said it.
I feel like we got to work backwards. Right?
Yeah.
The most recent thing we saw was Bills Chiefs. Oh, man. Where do you want to start?
All right, yo, so I want to just like put you in someone else's body for a second.
Okay. Stone Cold?
Imagine if you're someone who had like never watched American football.
Right.
And imagine you put that game on and that was the first game you watched.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine thinking like this is the norm for quarterback play.
Oh, yeah.
Like imagine being like, oh, so this is what the quarterbacks do.
Oh, that's why you guys always talk about that position, right?
That's important.
Yeah.
That's why they get all the money. Like, yeah, and watching that game, it almost makes you feel like having one of those. It's like almost impossible to not win if you don't have one of those guys. Obviously, we're gonna see what happens within some of those other games on the other side, but those guys clearly have everything on their shoulders.
Yeah.
No joke.
Yeah. Well, I like also what you're saying there because one of my takeaways from that is if you're in the AFC, yeah, you know where I'll go with this. If you're in the AFC, right, this is who you got to go through. How many teams do you think have a guy like that? I think there's one that won this weekend also. I think Burrow is that kind of alpha swagger. Maybe he's not as gifted a thrower or he's never going to make any crazy wild throws like, 90 yards off the left foot. But he's got balls, got the juice. Right? Yeah, he got the sauce. That's just going to last forever. And then the only other guy I can think of, and I want you to tell me because I got a boner for him.
It's Herbert.
I think Herbert is
for the quarterbacks for sure.
Is that guy. Like, I know it wasn't a playoff game, but what he did in that Sunday Night Football game, that was a playoff type atmosphere. That's it in the AFC, right? So is
Lamar not there at all?
I don't think so. No.
Because of his passing ability.
I just don't think Lamar is on that level with those guys.
Okay.
Do
it in the playoff situation. Because I mean, Lamar's got an MVP, and the offense is totally built around him. But I understand. I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think that he'll probably be the 5th guy.
Yeah.
But there's a hierarchy. Those 2 guys, you were talking about the A+ game, right? How wild is that we said if you knew for a fact that these guys were going to have an A+ game, who would you take over them? And it's like they both had an A+ game.
Yeah.
Son. That was so wild. So to me, if I'm looking at the AFC, if I'm a fan in the AFC, I'm looking at the landscape of it. It's like at some point I'm gonna run into one of these motherfuckers, and it's probably quiet.
We have to build our teams to beat those guys.
Yeah, man. Like
it used to be build your roster to beat your division. I was like, hey, we have to go through these unreal quarterbacks, so we got to figure something out.
Fuck.
When I was watching Josh Allen yesterday, it reminded me of the Vince Young Rose Bowl game against USC.
Yo, first sporting event of my life that I was like, I'm gonna be talking about this shit years later.
Last night or the
the Rose Bowl game, yo. Bro. He's my favorite college quarterback. Well, the reason why I wear number 10 is not Eli Manning. It's because of Vince Young,
bro.
That was my guy.
That in that game, there were so many similarities in the sense of, oh, I'm dropping back.
Mm-hmm.
How many times did Josh Allen drop, especially on like big 3rd and 4th down conversions, drop back, nothing's there, scramble, pick up the first down. He was faster than everyone on the field. He's bigger and stronger than almost everyone well, not everyone on the field, but amongst a lot of his kind of peers, you know, in terms of guys he'd be running. He's a linebacker, right?
Yeah.
So it's just so impressive. But it's the Josh Allen show. I mean, Gabriel Davis, I was a little. Yeah. Let me say something. And we'll talk about the defense in a bit. I was a little skeptical of the Bills' skill guys. That was one of my themes throughout the entire year.
Yeah.
After Diggs, and Knox is nice, but there's more to be desired there. I think Gabriel Davis kind of shut me up a bit in terms of he kind of proved himself.
Well, to be fair, he was a second-year guy.
Yeah, for sure.
And there was a lot of guys ahead of him in the depth chart. Like, I know in the fantasy community, anytime Manny Sanders out with COVID or an injury, Cole Beasley out with COVID or an injury, whatever it was, if one of those guys missed,
Gabe Davis.
it's like, yo, Gabe Davis. And you know who else was like that too? Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah.
There were guys who you manufacture touches for them, more so for Isaiah McKenzie, because like Gabriel Davis is a pretty good wide receiver. Even last year, he showed some flashes too. But no one saw fucking 8 for 201 and 4 touchdowns.
And the route where homie fell.
Yo, yeah.
I was at the 4th down throw.
Yeah, fourth and 18, I think it was.
I thought it was 4th and 20.
It might have been
4th and 19, maybe.
It might have been. But yo, speaking of Josh Allen, like dropping back and shit, how crazy was it? Didn't you expect him to take like a crazy sack also? Because how many times was he like going to pass and he would stiff arm Frank Clark or Chris Jones or something, or even that check down that he threw to Singletary? You're like, oh, just throw it into the dirt.
He made just some unreal plays with his legs too, and Mahomes did as well. Don't get me wrong. I think Mahomes really kind of adapted in the sense of, okay, you guys are going to play back. I'm going to be patient. I don't think he completed a ball early in the game, or could have been the entire game, through the air more than 20 yards. Anything over 20 yards, it was like a yak play.
Yeah.
So he did a great job of taking what the defense gave him, and then he obviously used his legs a whole bunch. But I just mean Josh Allen, the whole package is their offense is built around his legs as well. Where Mahomes is, it breaks down, I'll use my legs and I'll get creative. Josh Allen's legs are built into his offense as well. That's kind of the difference. I think Josh Allen had a better game because he had to do more individually. I'm just saying, call me crazy. I know Mahomes had an amazing game, and I'm not trying to I'm not taking anything away from him.
Yeah.
I'm just simply saying, based on what Josh Allen had to do with his legs, you know, and I also feel, and we'll probably talk about it, I think, you know, I think Buffalo's defense was a little overrated. Mm-hmm. And so you're going up against, I think, you know, the Chiefs' defense was a little bit better than Buffalo's.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's hard. I got the numbers in front of me. 329 and 4 touchdowns, no turnovers for Josh Allen. And then Mahomes had 378 and 3 touchdowns. How crazy is it that at the 2-minute warning, after that, 25 points got scored? Could you imagine holding an under ticket? Under was 55. It closed at 55, right? A lot of people were betting the over. And it's like, damn, son. How did this game not go over, right? You're looking at it, there were 21 points, 21 and 23, 44 points at the 2-minute warning. You're saying to yourself, hey, if this goes to overtime, even if they score a touchdown,
we're good.
We're cashing. Even if both teams kick a field goal, we're cashing, baby. And then, fireworks. That was the wildest finish, I think. I think sometimes we fall into traps with this game, right? Do you think this is the best game you've ever seen?
It's up there.
It's definitely up there, but I do think we're a prisoner of the moment. Like,
because the whole game wasn't as great.
The whole game wasn't as great. The last 2 minutes, bro, the Super Bowl that the Pats beat the Falcons, that wasn't a good game.
It was 28-3.
That was not a good game.
It was a blowout.
Yeah. The last 17 minutes or 18 minutes of the game was an amazing ending.
Yeah.
So I think we fall into traps of what amazing endings are that clouds our judgment of what a good game was.
That ending was so good. You can make the argument that
For this one,
it
you talked about
covered-
yesterday?
It covered up the whole game.
Sure, that's
Or
definitely
like,
fair.
you think about it-
Because to me, I still think that Rams-Chiefs game, start to finish, was 105 points were scored in that game. And it was just back and forth. And in that game, too, I remember when we used to do the pod with all the other guys, I would say, yo, the defense has actually played pretty well in that game, too, son. Like, the defense has had some defensive touchdowns. I'll talk about that Monday Night Football game. So, yeah, this is tenfold because it's a playoff game,
Yeah.
right? So I get that also. And it's the two guys who everyone feels like, the whole you build a franchise, who you picking. These two guys are not falling past 5. Like, these are in your top 5. And then you had the revenge narrative. You lost to them last year, Stephon Diggs with the picture, and then it's like, dude had 3 catches. Like, what's up with that?
I mean, it was the Josh Allen show, man.
It
I'm
was,
looking at the box score again. I hate to be, box score Bob, but Singletary got 10 carries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what did we say the entire run leading up into the playoffs and into the Patriot game, right? It was, Singletary got going, right?
They
right?
discovered a running game, right.
And what happened?
Quiet.
Obviously, there's no, you can't, like, I'm not trying to nitpick here. I'm just trying to look at it after the fact, right?
Right.
What can you kind of identify? What could have maybe gone differently? Just those are just some things you look at. But it was an unbelievable game, and those are two guys who are going to play each other how many times? In the rest of their career, how many times in the playoffs? How many more times?
I mean, you got to figure them two probably finish, unless it's like some wacky season like this one, you're probably always going to play in the AFC title game. Like if you finish first and second in your conference.
You're going to play one of the two.
Well, they're going to probably meet in the AFC title game. And I think, you know what it's going to come down to, bro? Honestly, who has home field? That used to be
That game is different in Buffalo, for sure.
That conversation used to be the same when it was Peyton and Brady. All of Peyton's big wins never came in Foxborough. They beat him in 2006 with the interception. Jackson had the interception. It was in Indy. They beat him another time in 2009 in Indy. All the playoff losses that Peyton had, they were all in Foxborough. Because remember, it used to be like, the dome team coming outdoors, it's snowing and shit, and then they would get shut out or something. It'd be something ridiculous. But for the most part, I think what's going to happen is Josh Allen is going to fall into the same trap that a lot of dudes felt would happen when they would run into Brady in the AFC. If you run into Mahomes, it's quiet for you. And it's just going to be like, that other guy is just better than me.
Yeah.
That's it. And the only way you can navigate past that, if you're like a Bills fan or Josh Allen, it's like, in the SEC, everyone's always like, this coach gets fired because he can't beat Nick Saban.
Yep.
It's like you beat everyone else, but you can't beat Nick Saban. It's like, well, Nick Saban beats everybody, right?
Yeah.
So, you lose to Nick Saban. It's like, that's the cream of the crop. That's how I think people are going to be looking at the Chiefs and Mahomes. As long as this version of Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Chiefs exist, and especially if they have home field.
Yeah.
Dude, he's only lost to Tom Brady in the playoffs. The Chiefs were my pick against the spread over the weekend because they were undervalued at home. It's down to a pick 'em at one point. Not a pick 'em, -1, essentially a pick 'em, right? And you're looking at it like this dude has only lost to Brady. And at home, he's covered every game against the spread unless he left early. Like,
and what did we we used to say it back in the day, or I used to say it, and I didn't know if this was like dumb or not, but I was just like, I'm gonna bet Brady and the Patriots to make the Super Bowl every year.
yeah.
You're gonna get the value at some point. You're gonna catch value on the Patriots and Brady going to the Super Bowl at some point during the year. It's gonna get to a plus enough number at some point, and you just jump on it.
Well, we used to say you should bet them at the beginning of the year
of the season.
they'd be like plus 600,
Yeah.
and then come playoff time, they'd have the bye week. And then before you know it, it's like, all right, they're 3-1 now to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you're right.
And
The
then,
Patriots is a faster start, but with the Chiefs, there's been times where
hey, November 1st, they were 16-1 on WinBet to win the Super Bowl. And you're talking about the preseason favorite coming into it, them in Tampa Bay.
Can I just talk to you, because we were talking about this before with the Bills, because people, one of the big storylines is change the overtime rule.
Right. Which, come on. Come on.
Well, I had an idea.
Bro,
for
give
you.
me my flowers, though. Have I not been yelling about this shit for years? About overtime sucking?
They just changed the overtime rule, though. How many years ago?
But it's still wrong.
So they got to change it again.
Yeah, that was not... Bro, so they changed the original overtime, which sucked even
was
worse.
terrible.
Because it was like, yo, you win the coin toss, all you need is, 40 yards to kick a field goal?
Yeah.
Or in some cases, 30 yards because you have Justin Tucker or you have one of these guys that hit these bombs and shit. McPherson now, kickers, got to show him some love. But, dude, that used to be worse, and they change it, but it's still not the best that it could be. So just because something changed doesn't mean that it's the best that it could be. The overtime rule, I've been clamoring for this for years. We even talked about this during some overtime games during the regular season. It is a joke, and it's ridiculous that we go into overtime, and because we flip a fucking coin, I don't get to touch the ball. I'm Allen, you're Mahomes. Our season comes down to a coin flip. No, it should be you won the coin flip, you score a touchdown, dope. I get to respond. I score a touchdown, after that, sudden death.
Yo, Bills had 13 seconds to respond.
Yes, both could be true, though.
But what about...
Both could be true that the defense should have played better and the overtime rules are not as good as they should be.
Absolutely. But I think anything can be improved. Like, I mean, not everything in this world, but, I mean, you can I feel like you could look at something and nitpick everything. You know what I mean? Is that not... There's a lot of kind of, I guess, rules within the game of sports across all of them there where it's like... You can look at something and say, oh, well, maybe this could be different or maybe this could be different. I totally understand your point, though.
But do you think that's a fair way to lose in overtime? Do you think it's right that if you win the coin toss, you have a significant advantage? Since 2010, when the overtime rules changed, these new overtime rules, teams that get the ball first in the overtime period, there's been 11 playoff games. What is the record of the team that wins the coin toss, Impy?
In 11 games?
Yeah.
7-4?
10-1.
Damn. But those are, yeah. All right. I got it. Those are, and
teams that have won the coin toss have gone out and won the game on the first possession 7 times.
In the playoffs, right?
In the playoffs.
Let me say something.
Which means, hold on, winning the coin toss isn't an automatic W, but it is a clear advantage.
Yeah.